It is time for the MMA Strategy Show right here on Awesemo.com. As always, I am joined by the fighter, Pete Rogers Jr. Hopefully everyone's off to a great Wednesday evening. Pete, how you doing, man?
What is going on? I'm good. What a treat, last weekend's card was. I mean, I really, really enjoyed it. I was looking forward to it like crazy, and it did not disappoint. Did you enjoy the card as much as I did?
I did enjoy the card. It was, listen, Khabib, what more can you say about this guy? Just domination is a word to use. I mean, we talked about it last week on the strategy show and on Live Before Lock. We said, you got to have the main event to be optimal. Well, no, you didn't. He wasn't in the optimal lineup. So, yeah, there was, and I don't want to say it was on. I want to say it was on DK and also on FanDuel, maybe, if my memory's correct. Nathaniel Wood was actually in the optimal lineup because of the fact of it was a night of favorites.
Man, it was a night of favorites, and the Nathaniel Wood Casey Kenny fight was insane, Jason. Back and forth action. And in fights where it's arguably a split decision, 2 rounds to 1. Those are sometimes the situations where you'll see the loser fighter be in optimal lineups because it was so close. The action was crazy. I really enjoyed that fight. I thought Nathaniel Wood looked great, but man, Casey Kenny, who's better than him in the quarantine right now? I mean, he's been absolutely killing it.
Just a fun fighter to watch. I mean, that was definitely, if you did not see that fight, go back and watch that fight. That was a great matchup between them. Khabib, pure domination, obviously a big topic in the MMA world. And by the way, I appreciate everyone tuning in here on a Wednesday night. Be sure to hit that like button here on YouTube. Also, be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, so you get all the Awesemo shows that we have here on YouTube. But, the big conversation with Khabib is A, do you believe his retirement? And B, is he the GOAT?
I do believe his retirement. I kind of don't want to believe it because I want him to come back and, take care of his family stuff and come back and, fight Tony Ferguson possibly. We never really had the chance to see that. I want to see him against George St. Pierre like his father wished. That would be incredible, even though George St. Pierre, he's a retired fighter, and it would be a very, very interesting matchup for sure. But in my opinion, Jason, I think that he's my pound for pound GOAT, and I understand the argument for John Jones. I mean, arguably John Jones has the best MMA career in the UFC. But outside factors have been a large part of his career. Also, the PED use, it's always going to have that little asterisk next to his career. If the sport stopped today, I would say Khabib. But since Khabib's retiring and John Jones is still fighting, I still believe that John Jones is going to reclaim that spot. And, in your opinion, he's probably at number 1. I think it comes down to 3 fighters, GSP, John Jones, or Khabib.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I was myself and my co-host on my podcast, Daniel, we were talking about today, like if you had a column of the GOAT conversation and you're going to put a yes check mark, no check mark of what may be like the factors with Khabib, I mean, really the only negative side of him is a lack of title defenses. But I think the biggest positive of him is he's dominated everything. And what I think impressed you the most is he was walking down Justin Gaethje with a broken foot, broken toes. Like, I mean, man, just amazing performance. But I mean, look, if we walk into a bar on Saturday, everyone's watching the fights, and there's 20 people watching the fights, the poll might be 30% Jones, 30% Khabib, 30% George St. Pierre, and maybe 10% Fedor, or maybe 10% Amanda Nunes.
Yeah, I think that Amanda Nunes definitely needs to be considered, considering her resume. It's interesting, and I don't think that you can necessarily say that one fighter is better than everybody because it's difficult. It's like the Michael Jordan versus LeBron conversation. It's fun to have, it's fun to talk about, and bring up good points. But I'm excited. I'm excited to see what's going to happen with the 155-pound division moving forward. I would imagine it's Dustin Poirier against Conor McGregor. But then you have Justin Gaethje and Tony Ferguson looming there, and rematching them doesn't really make much sense. So we'll have to see how it plays out.
Give me a lightweight tournament, man. 8-man tournament. Come on.
I would love it.
It'll never happen, though.
It'll never happen. Dana White is so against tournaments because it's it's Bellator's type of thing.
Yeah, man, I would be all down, but yeah, I think it's going to be Poirier McGregor for the lightweight title, and we'll see what happens there. But look, at one time, now this is how you do a segue, Pete. One time, Anderson Silva was the GOAT.
And he's, during his reign in his prime, he's in that list, that top 5 of his dominance. Now, what has happened lately definitely tarnishes his legacy. I mean, that there's no question there. He's on a skid. Hasn't been the best, hasn't nearly been his dominant self in quite some time. Since Chris Weidman kind of came around, you really saw the decline of Anderson Silva, and it's sad to see. But this is his going away gift, I guess, this final fight, supposedly. I don't know if I buy it, but perhaps in the UFC, it's his last one.
1-6 with 1 no contest in his last 8 fights. You think about his, prior to that Chris Weidman loss, the initial fight against Chris Weidman, he had beat Stephan Bonner. If he would have retired at that moment, I don't think there's a question. I think everyone would have called him the GOAT. But, since then, the back-to-back loss against Chris Weidman. Then he initially had the win against Nick Diaz. Of course, that was overturned to a drug test, and a loss against Michael Bisping. Loss against Daniel Cormier, where he stepped up on 2-3 days notice. Controversial decision win against Eric Brunson, and then the loss to Israel Adesanya decision, and then losing to Jared Cannonier back in May of last year. And of course, on the other side of this, Uriah Hall, who Dana White kind of called the next Anderson Silva back when he was on the Ultimate Fighter. He's won back-to-back fights, but this is his first fight in 2020. Looking at the DK pricing, $8,600 for Uriah Hall, $7,600 for Anderson Silva, and then over on FanDuel, which we always kind of talk about, we hate the pricing of the main event, $20 for Uriah Hall, $18 for Anderson Silva. On the betting lines, Anderson Silva plus 190, Uriah Hall minus 230. Let's break this one down for us, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, a young Anderson Silva is what Uriah Hall essentially is. I mean, the guy is so flashy, so dynamic. The dexterity in his legs is insane. Can chain together great combinations between punches and kicks. The guy is so talented standing up. He's kind of had some struggles in the UFC, in regards to matchups and in regards to taking tough opposition. I do think that he's kind of a guy that was so hyped that he kind of fell short of expectations. Kelvin Gastelum upsetting him on the Ultimate Fighter finale kind of is like the standard for his career, of him falling short a little bit. Now, in a situation here facing Anderson Silva in a striking matchup, because that's what Anderson Silva is going to do. Anderson's not going to go out there and shoot a takedown. My mind would be blown if he went out there and tried to initiate any grappling. This is a great matchup, and I think it really feeds right into Uriah Hall's style. It's the type of fight they both enjoy. I just favor the youth of Uriah Hall, the durability of Uriah Hall. I mean, Silva has, been finished quite a bit during his struggles. You think of Chris Weidman, you also think about the injury he suffered. Then you also think about his loss to Jared Cannonier that comes recently. So, I mean, during the rough patch, I'm taking the younger guy, and I think if Uriah Hall really loses to a 45-year-old Anderson Silva, man, that's not a good look. And I know it may be his last fight, and as long as he doesn't give Anderson Silva too much respect, it's his fight. It really is Uriah's fight.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about this earlier today. I just wonder, will Uriah have the killer instinct if it comes to that point where he has the ability to finish the fight? I mean,
yeah.
Look, this is the Anderson Silva of 2010, 2009, 2008. He ain't walking through that door. And I think that, look, in terms of DFS, there are people that are going to be, creating lineups on Saturday, and that they're just going to see the Anderson Silva name. Now, when I was doing a dummy crunch on Fantasy Crunch earlier today, Uriah Hall was pretty much coming up in every lineup. So he's going to be a popular fighter. We should mention, by the way, free premium content right now up at Awesemo.com is our MMA ranking. So be sure to check out that, along with MMA rankings, also the NFL Express Stack Tool, PGA ownership projections are free content over at Awesemo.com. Of course, the PGA show will be coming up after us. And, I would say I like Uriah Hall more on DK than I do on FanDuel.
Yeah, I mean, the FanDuel pricing for Anderson Silva, $18. It's not happening. I'm not touching that, even if I was playing over there. On DraftKings, I think it's priced accordingly based on, the recent struggles. It is 5 rounds, Jason, which is interesting. It's a main event, of course it is, but they have really low volume. They really do. And when you have guys that are so dependent on flashing moves and all that stuff, the amount of significant strikes landed usually isn't the highest. And if you look at the numbers, 3.3 for Uriah Hall, 3.04 for Anderson Silva, not everything lands. I do think Uriah Hall and Anderson Silva have some of the best defense in regards to striking. Both over 50% striking defensive rating. So even if they throw a ton this fight, I don't know if everything's going to land. I think it's Uriah Hall's fight, and I'll have him in plenty of lineups because he's not in a 9K. If he was in a 9K, I'd be a little hesitant. But I don't know if this week's optimal in regards to the main event. I really don't, because of the slow pace fight. It could be more of like a fun type of fight where they're going, tit for tat, and not really go in kill mode against each other.
Now, the fight that I'm really interested to hear you break down is Andre Fili and Bryce Mitchell, the co-main event of this fight card. Bryce Mitchell is a -150 betting favorite. Andre Fili +130 over on DK. 8,500 for Bryce Mitchell, 7,700 for Fili. Then over on FanDuel, $15 for Fili, $17 for Bryce Mitchell. So I'm interested to hear how you break this one down.
Man, Bryce Mitchell, undefeated fighter, 13-0 technically, because he lost on the Ultimate Fighter. But whenever you are talking about an undefeated fighter, they have so much confidence and so much belief in themselves. So I really don't like betting against undefeated fighters. So I will not be straying away from Bryce Mitchell here. However, I do think that Andre Fili is a tricky matchup for him in regards to having the striking advantage. Andre Fili has really good hands, really good Muay Thai. But, he's very underrated in the wrestling and grappling department. And I think that he can match or nullify Bryce Mitchell's attempts of taking him down. The one situation that I will be worried about is Andre Fili being a little too overconfident in his grappling abilities and initiating the grappling and then getting lazy and getting caught in a triangle choke or something off of Bryce Mitchell's back. Because I do favor Andre Fili in the fight. It's like a 60-40. I do think that this fight is very, very interesting. And in regards to scrambles, it kind of reminds me of the Casey Kenny, Nathaniel Wood, where it's a very close fight, very competitive. And I don't see one side dominating. I see, it going back and forth for 3 rounds. I mean, you couldn't be looking at an elevated score based on their price. I like Andre Fili in the underdog position because I don't know if it's just me, Jason, but the underdogs this week are hideous. And I mention it a lot, but I feel like, they're pretty bad this week.
Though, and I think I mentioned this to you in a text message the other day, is if Bryce Mitchell cannot get this fight to the ground, does he have the abilities to win a kickboxing matchup?
It's tough to say because Andre Fili, has the better striking offense, but we have seen Andre Fili hurt, knocked out, wobbled. And then, Bryce Mitchell has made adjustments, to his game, has, seemed like he figured out the strength and conditioning aspect and changed together good takedowns. I can see, but Andre Fili's also gone, back and forth with some of the best fighters in the division. So 7,700 discount for Fili. I'll take my chances here. But like I said, it's like a 60-40 for me. I do think that Mitchell, if he wins, it's by finish because I do think that Fili's the better overall fighter.
Yeah, Andre Fili, I think the number is 8 of his last 9 fights have gone the distance. Yeah. Looking at Andre Fili here in terms of significant strikes landed. When you look at his last couple of fights, a split decision win against Charles Jourdain, landed 44 significant strikes, but had 5 takedowns in that matchup. When you look at when he has scored takedowns, scored against Michael Johnson, scored it against Dennis Bermudez. Dennis is a quality wrestler. So, yeah. But you would imagine that the Team Alpha male team is not going to sit there and say, let's not go to the ground with this guy. This guy's dangerous on the ground. Let's keep this fight on the feet.
You would think so, right? And I'll tell you that Andre Fili he seems like an outlaw. like a guy that'll kind of stray away from game plan if there is a guy. Because I listened to an interview before we got on the show, and he's like, don't be surprised if I take Bryce Mitchell down and I show that I'm better than him on the mat, because I do believe in my jiu-jitsu. Now it's like, man, you're playing with fire. You do that because Bryce is so sneaky. So, has possibly the best twister in the game, and has really made that, famous. Korean Zombie did, but he's really taken the reins of that and trying to hit it against all his opponents. He's just tricky on the mat, Jason. So why would you bother going there? If Feely does go the grappling route, can he avoid getting submitted for 15 minutes? We'll have to see.
And of course, he'll make his camo shorts debut.
Yes.
I mean, I'm telling you what, it's pretty crazy the fact that Dana White actually is letting him do this. And look, I have a feel. I mean, look, Bryce Mitchell is definitely a guy that fans have grown to love. And for Andre, I was actually kind of surprised the fact of Bryce Mitchell is the ranked fighter in this one. Andre Feely isn't.
Yeah, Andre Feely, I think he's had some bumps in the road, but if he takes out the undefeated Bryce Mitchell, he could definitely reclaim a ranked spot.
Next up, we've got Holland versus Muradov. Holland -140, Muradov +120. This is Pete's favorite fight of the night. 8,200, 8,000 on DK. Kevin Holland is the 82,000 fighter. FanDuel pricing a little different over on FanDuel. $17 for Holland. Muradov is $13.
Yeah, Holland and Murdoch, man, this is a banger of a matchup. I think you need this fight, and not too often do you not need the 8,000, 8,200 fight. The way that these guys fight and they bring it, Holland has a 79% finish rate, and so does Murdoch. Both like to hunt KOs, and I think that Holland will carry some more ownership based on, the name value. How many times have I touted Kevin Holland? Like, I love the guy. I really do. Now, in saying that, I do think that this is a very difficult fight. And coming off of that, that loss, well, it was a victory over Darren Stewart, but he lost that fight. And he knows he lost that fight. And that's the problem with Kevin Holland, is he goes pedal to the metal, but doesn't have the best takedown defense. 50 comes in at 54%. If somebody takes him down, he works a lot of ear claps, elbows off the bottom, doesn't really work towards getting back to his feet so often. Even think about the Joaquin Buckley fight, right? Joaquin Buckley was looking good in that fight. And Joaquin Buckley throws heat. And he was hitting Kevin Holland with a lot. And I was like, oh my goodness, like, this is a much more competitive fight than I anticipated. So, long story short, Muradov here comes in at 8,000, has heavy power, great finishing ability, but also has solid wrestling that he can rely on if he needs to. And in some of his fights, he has gone to that well. I do think that Holland is more likely to get an early finish, where Muradov could, get a decision victory here and grind out Kevin Holland. I'm actually taking Muradov in the fight, though. Like, I'm doing a slight lean to Muradov, despite my love for Kevin Holland at 8,200. It's a fight I need to target. So split your exposure here. But I do like Muradov. I mean, we saw what happened last week with Whitaker and Cannonier. Whitaker just put it on him. He really looked good.
Noticeable reach advantage for Kevin Holland in this one, 81 inches versus 75 inches. How much does that concern you, if you want to be a Muradov backer?
Well, I will say that Muradov has some of the best hands that we've seen in quite some time. He's not like anything special, but I mean, Floyd Mayweather is like his management company, so which is kind of interesting. He has great hands for MMA, decent takedown defense as well. I think that as long as the problem with Kevin Holland is he throws jabs, but also he throws a lot of lunging techniques. So whenever you're throwing a lot of lunging techniques, you're giving up your reach. You're closing the gap for your opponent. And sometimes when you do that, you run into a shot. I mean, Holland, how can you bet against him in the UFC 6-2? I can see why, if you really love Holland, you're going to pick him. But I need some cheap people in my lineups, and I'm okay with taking Muradov, thinking that he can, outlast Kevin Holland.
Of course, if you are one of our Awesemo Plus subscribers, hop into that premium Slack channel right now. Get a question in there. We will get to those as we go through on the show. Also, we will get those questions answered here that are submitted there on YouTube. Of course, we'll be here for another 40 minutes before leading into the PGA show. Next up, we got a heavyweight matchup. The crochet boss, Maurice Green, taking on Greg Hardy. Greg Hardy, a substantial favorite in this one. I already see that little smirk. I think that smirk's based on the comment that was in the comment section. Greg Hardy minus 330, Maurice Green plus 270. Over on DraftKings, 7,400 for Green, 8,800 for Greg Hardy, and then on FanDuel, $20 for Hardy, $10 for Green. That, to me, this is a GPP fight, plain and simple.
Every time Maurice Green is on the card, I feel like Jason picks him. And I want to know, Jason, are you picking him in this matchup?
Well, you got to wait till the end of the show when I give you my straight-up picks.
Okay. I mean,
okay, this is what concerns me if you want to be a Maurice Green backer is the power that Greg Hardy has.
Correct.
What concerns me if I'm in Team Hardy is the leg kicks, to where I think that kickboxing background that Maurice Green has, he could use. Also, he is a jiu-jitsu guy. While everyone knows Maurice Green as this glory kickboxer, this guy who loves jiu-jitsu. He trained by Brock Larson, now trained down there at Jackson Wink. So, I mean, look, I think that if Greg Hardy, I would probably say you pick him 7 out of 10 times. I think the speed and power is a massive advantage for him this one, but I definitely see the path to victory for the crochet boss.
Yeah, I would say that Hardy is the play for me. I think that Hardy, despite, how I'm not the highest on him, what he does have is, extreme athleticism, great power in his hands. He has demonstrated that on the Contender Series. The guy looks phenomenal when he throws. He's aggressive. He's got that killer instinct in him. If he can keep the fight on the feet, it looks good. 83% takedown defensive rating. Maurice Green comes in, Jason, with a 0% takedown accuracy. So the thought that he's going to be shooting a double leg,
dangerous off his back.
Probably not going to happen. What's that?
He's dangerous off his back.
Very dangerous. So he's very dangerous off his back. So he's got he's a jiu-jitsu guy. So I always say it, jiu-jitsu guys usually don't have the best takedowns. Mm-hmm. So they're comfortable off their back. They're comfortable, if they get knocked down, staying there, or even pulling guard or kind of pulling guard in MMA. That's very dangerous. But moral of the story here is that I like Greg Hardy at 8,800. I think he has first-round KO ability. Maurice Green's going to look to chew up that leg. If he does, Statue of Liberty standing right in front of you, close your eyes and swing, and I think Greg Hardy puts him down. As long as Greg Hardy's been working his jiu-jitsu defense, I don't see how he loses this fight. I really don't. I think for me, you said 7 out of 10 times. I would lean towards 8 to 9 out of 10 times Greg Hardy wins this fight.
Well, you remember Yorgan Castro had a lot of success with those leg kicks. So that's why, I mean, look, I think that if you are a Greg Hardy backer, to me, the two concerns you have is that Maurice Green chops down the leg, and I think the other concern is the fight makes it to late second, third round. Yeah. Is the cardio there for Greg Hardy? I mean, I think those are legitimate questions. Joe in the super chat says, looking for our lock of the night. I don't know if I have a lock of the night, to be quite honest with you. I don't know if there's there's a couple fighters I really like. We'll get into those, Joe, as we go on. He goes, I hope my dude Maurice Green uses his range and gets Hardy tired and maybe get a submission win. I mean, yeah, I think that to me is the path to victory.
Okay, you've interviewed Maurice Green plenty of times, right?
Yep.
I'm not knocking the guy at all because he seems like a really nice guy. Does he still smoke cigarettes?
No.
Okay.
No, he quit a year ago.
Okay. All right. So
it was before. I want to say it was before he moved to, because he went to Factory X.
Yeah.
And then he decided that Factory X just wasn't the place for him.
Yeah.
And so now he's at Jackson Wink. This will be his
third or fourth fight, right?
I was gonna say second or third at Jackson Wink.
Okay. Yeah.
At least second, maybe third.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like he's found a nice little niche there with Jackson's. And the one thing about Jackson Wink is they will develop a strong game plan. They will probably work that kick that stomp front kick towards the knee. I can definitely see that happening. It's referred to as the oblique kick, and John Jones uses that a lot. Jackson Wink is, pretty famous for using that kick often. Greg Hardy, though, I think that he wins the fight. I do. I think, we've seen Maurice Green get knocked out plenty of times, even in kickboxing and MMA. If you press and walk him down, you can beat him. So my pick is Hardy.
Of course, this is the MMA Strategy Show right here on Awesemo.com. Do want to let you know about a promo that we got going on till Halloween. Yeah, Halloween is on Saturday night. Yeah, Sunday is already going to be November. Get an Awesemo Plus Platinum Weekly Pass for only $10.31. You see what they did there? $10.31. $10.31. Yeah. When you use the promo code PUMPKIN at checkout, that's nearly $20 off the original price. This package includes full access to all the Awesemo Plus features, including player projections, ownership projections, our premium Slack channel, lineup builder, and much more. This offer is valid through Halloween. Of course, that is on Saturday, October the 31st. So you got to take advantage of that deal right now over at Awesemo.com, Awesemo.com/join to sign up for that promo. $10.31 for a Platinum Weekly Pass when you use the promo code PUMPKIN at checkout. Next up, we'll move over to Bobby Green versus Tiago Moses. And I think this is the way to break this one down to you is, can Tiago get the fight to the ground? I think that's about the best way to put it.
I think that he probably can, but I don't think he can hold Bobby Green down. Bobby Green has really hit his stride, man. He's 27-10-1 overall, 8-5-1 in the UFC. You guys know I love Bobby Green. I really do. I love his style. I love the trash talk, but it's like polite trash talk. It's like, no, you didn't hurt me on that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's cool. I like it. He has great hands. Pretty good takedown defense, 74% takedown defensive rating. He's tough and he's very durable. I can't see Moises getting him down and submitting him. I really can't. I think that Moises does have some good striking, but Bobby Green is priced appropriately in my mind. Outside of a fluky submission, I think Bobby Green takes this and shows why he is a threat in 155-pound division. I mean, the guy's only 34 and has 38 fights. That is insane.
Yeah, when you talk about guys who have really taken advantage of this, what 2020 is, Bobby Green is one of them. Wins against Clay Guida, Lando Veneta, and Alan Patrick. I guess the question ultimately, when you look at this, because the last time that I think it's a stat that I mention every time we talk about Bobby Green. The last time he won by stoppage, November 6, 2013. So the question is, particularly on DK at 9,000, can he pay off that price with a decision win?
Some guys are just decision guys, and some guys are have that finishing ability. I do think that Bobby Green allows his opponents to kind of come back in fights and make it a little bit more competitive than it needs to be. I mean, I like, for me, targeting, in baseball, hitters that are due for a home run. Maybe Bobby Green is due for a finish or a KO. And I know the chat's thinking that as well. I love Bobby Green. I will back him, and I think that he can get an elevated score, whether it's a finish or a decision. I really do.
Yeah, I'm just pulling up our ownership rankings. By the way, you don't need to bring up baseball. Sore subject.
Oh, man, I know. How do you pull Blake Snell? That's all I'm going to say.
Unfortunately, they've done that all year long. But in that situation, bro, I'm sitting on the couch, and I just goes, that's the game.
Yeah.
That's the game.
Yep.
Would not blame Blake Snell if he says he wants to be traded. Would not blame Blake Snell.
I don't mind.
Bobby Green, a little under 35% ownership. I like that.
Interesting. Yeah, but one thing I will say about Bobby Green, and I mentioned it before, is that he allows his opponents to kind of come back, and I don't know if he enjoys kind of that style of that grind of making a close, gutty performance. Just go out there and dominate, man. I think that he can do it.
Yeah, we'll see what happens in terms of that one. Next up, we will move on as we have Chris Grootsmocker versus Alex Hernandez. Alex Hernandez, one of the biggest favorites here on the card, a 4-1 betting favorite. Chris Grootsmocker plus 325, 9,300 for Alex on DK, 6,900 for Grootsmocker over on DraftKings, and then $23 on FanDuel for Alex Hernandez. $8 for Chris Grootsmocker. I talked to Alex Hernandez About I guess about 2 weeks ago at this point, and you know, a lot of it, the conversation was about, you know, him moving his training to Factory X. His original coach is still a part of the team, Jason Yarrington,
Yep.
but you know, he talked about in the conversation we had was in the Drew Dober fight, he felt lost and he realized that he had to make some changes. He just realized that, you know, there was things that he had to change, and you know, and I took it as more of, it was about having the right training partners around him. That's the way I kind of took the conversation. But you know, this is, I mean, man, he's a substantial favorite in this one.
I will say that you need to surround yourself with people that are challenging you in the training room. If you're beating them every single day, you're not learning, you're not progressing, you're getting stagnant, and you know, you need to continue to evolve in this sport, especially as a fighter like Alexander Hernandez, who's 28 years old, had so much hype coming into the UFC. I mean, he really did. And after his performance of knocking out Beneil Dariush, we've seen what Beneil has done in the UFC. He's so impressive. Then Cowboy kind of halts that hype train, you know, a little too much too soon, UFC. But you know, I think that Alex Hernandez being almost a minus 400 favorite is crazy because of how he's, you know, kind of fallen short. I think the odds should be closer despite the significant skill advantage that Hernandez does have over Grootsmocker. Grootsmocker is just tough. He really is. He's a tough, gritty guy. You know, has really been able to withstand some damage and is somewhat durable, I'll say. And then, you know, put it on Joe Lozon and got a finish. But this should be Alex Hernandez's fight. I mean, the guy can take down anybody, submit anybody. That's where he became so hyped in the training room and on the local scene, is for his ground game. He hasn't really been able to show it, Jason. Like, I don't expect him to go out there and TKO Grootsmocker. It's a possibility with kind of like a Khabib type of ground and pound mauling. But I do expect him to get a submission victory over Grootsmocker. I think that 9,300, it's a hefty price. I'll definitely pay for it. But I mean, I'm not in love with it because of his recent struggles. You know, what's he, 1-2 in his past three? Yeah, 1-2 in his past three. Not even the best performance over Francisco Trinaldo.
Yeah, I mean, you could make the case that maybe he didn't win that fight, and I know there was a lot of people who did pick Trinaldo in that matchup, and you know, look, it'll be interesting to kind of see what the differences we see in Alex on Saturday, now being at Factory X, and you know, now being, you know, part of the team there, and everyone that is a part there. But yeah, I will tell you, when I initially looked at the betting odds for this one, I was surprised how big of a favorite he was.
He shouldn't be that big, and I think it's just because of what people, you know, remember for when he came into the UFC and what he did prior to the Cowboy fight. But if you look at it, since the Cowboy fight, he hasn't really looked anywhere the same at all. And, you know, when you have a guy that was undefeated and then, you know, he starts to lose, you know, confidence is a major factor in fighting. It really is. So, you know, once you lose that confidence, you definitely can see changes in fighters.
Next up, we've got Yonez versus Rodriguez. Of course, Rodriguez, a late notice replacement. It was supposed to be Aaron Phillips. Initially, we're waiting for pricing. In terms of this one, there was a $16 price tag on FanDuel for Adrian Yonez. You know, this is I expect that Adrian will be one of the bigger betting favorites on this one, and I would expect on DK you're going to have to pay a high price for him.
Yeah, I mean, he's a minus 360 favorite. He's probably going to come in. What do we got? Probably 9,200. That's my guess. I'm pulling a Jason there, you know, guessing the salaries. Let's see if it comes out. But I do like Yonez here, man. I mean, Yonez has some incredible hands. We saw it on the Contender Series. I was struggling to find some tape on Rodriguez because there are similar MMA fighters with the same exact name. So I had to find the right Victor Rodriguez, and I went on Fight Pass and I watched some of his fights. He has KO power, but he's sloppy and doesn't really look that skilled. It looks like the skill disparity here is crazy. I think Yonez should piece him up, work towards a finish. The kid looks like he's really dynamic, really good, fought some really good competition as well. So I like Yonez. I'll have to see the price. Obviously, we have to see the weigh-ins, how these guys look. But Rodriguez is a guy for me, despite his 100% finish rate. And the reason I say that is because a lot of the other websites don't count his wins as being as a like a legitimate commission or whatnot.
Yeah. And that's
so yeah, exactly. So it's Yonez for me, man. It really is. I like him quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean he's someone I've had a chance to talk to on a couple occasions.
Yeah,
and someone that obviously made a massive statement on the Contender Series. So we'll see how he fares in terms of this one. Then we got Sean Strickland taking on Jack Marshman. Sean Strickland minus 340 betting favorite in this one. He is 9,100 on DK. What's your thoughts on this one, man?
My thoughts are, I wonder how Strickland's going to look returning to the cage. It's been quite some time. He had a decently long layoff. Coming back in here, I mean, in the UFC, he was 7-3 overall. Marshman's 3-4 overall. Strickland's 20-3. Marshman's 23-9. So, like, Strickland on paper should win this fight, and he has beaten really, really top competition. I mean, anytime you beat Nordine Taleb, you got my attention. I think Nordine Taleb is a very tough opponent for that division. That was some time ago now. So I don't know what Strickland's been up to. I really don't. I'll have to, pay attention to the weigh-ins. I want to make sure that he's coming in, not just for a paycheck, because if he's coming in for a paycheck, a guy with Marshman who throws heat could be looking to finish you. And, that's what he's going to do. Mm-hmm. The thing with Strickland is he can take you down. He reminds me a little bit of Rory McDonald a little bit, where he's got striking and good grappling, where he can kind of take you to where you're the weakest. I think Strickland's a strong play at 9,100. Marshman, relatively low GPP upside, but, definitely has KO power.
Yeah, $10 on FanDuel GPP, maybe if you need to. I know when I was kind of just, playing around with DK, salaries, the one thing I thought with this week was this was not a hard week of roster construction on DK. No. I just didn't feel that way. Next up, we got Cole Williams and Jason Witt. And alert, Pete. Alert on this one. I spoke to Jason Witt. He didn't say these two words, but he mentioned he might be taking a trip to Takedown City.
Oh, I think he should. And I really think he should. I mean, the guy, he is a very, very talented grappler. And he's coming from a strong camp in Glory MMA. And we know that. We love Glory MMA. We do. I mean, we should be sponsored by Glory MMA with how highly we praise their fighters. I mean, James Krause.
I'll let James know that next time I talk to him.
Please let him know. I mean, because, how many promos do I got to cut for these guys? It's such a strong gym. And whenever you're surrounded by so many talented fighters and led by such a great leader who's also a good coach and good fighter, man, I love it. You have my respect. Witt coming in here at 8,300. Williams coming in at 7,900. Now, the odds, they're close. And it's minus 140 for Witt, plus 120 for Williams. They're both 0-1 in the UFC. So I would imagine that is why. Witt took a last-minute fight against Takashi Sato and was finished in 48 seconds. We really weren't able to see much of him at all.
Took 48 hours notice.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's kind of like I just got to jump on this opportunity to get into the UFC. If I win, that's probably the worst situation ever, is him taking a last-minute fight like that and getting finished in under a minute. But regardless, at least he's here to kind of show he has a full camp behind him now. I do think if he goes the grappling route, he can really, really, put his opponent Williams in some danger. I like 8,300 for Witt, but man, it's hard to trust either one.
Jason Witt basically alluded to me. I'm going to put this guy up against the fence. I'm going to take him down.
That's perfect. He needs to. And if he does at 8,300, Jason, those of you who are listening to this show, Takedown City comes, we're looking at 85 to 100 points if he goes to multiple takedowns, works towards a finish. The one thing I'll say is he only has a 59% finish rate. More of a grinding type of style, so maybe temper expectations.
Yeah, no, you definitely got to consider that. Of course, this is the MMA Strategy Show right here on Awesemo.com. If you're ever you don't have a chance to watch us live and you want to listen to us on your phone, maybe as you're driving to work, download the show in podcast form, part of the Awesemo Podcast Network. And of course, while you're there, be sure to give us a 5-star review. That does really help us out a lot as well. Of course, maybe you want to listen back to the show before live, before lock. maybe you missed something we said. So be sure to check the show out as part of the Awesemo Podcast Network. Of course, all the shows here at Awesemo are a part of the Awesemo Podcast Network. Now, when we think about Takedown City, not necessarily thinking about this next fight of Dustin Jacoby and Justin Ledet. If someone's going to go for a takedown, pretty safe to say it'll be Justin Ledet. I spoke to Jacoby about 3-4 weeks ago about this matchup. And, he said, he's like, man, it was a big smile. He was actually on the golf course when he got the fight offer. And apparently I want to say he eagled that hole after getting the fight offer. So he was, but look, we know what Dustin Jacoby is. But Dustin Jacoby will sit there and say, like, look, I'm a complete mixed martial artist. Yes, everyone knows about his stand-up abilities. And he really he's talked to me a couple of times about how his time in Glory really helped his confidence in terms of his striking ability. So this is a fight that I think is a GPP type fight. Could be a cash type fight too, if this fight stays on the feet for 15 minutes. If one of these guys can't get a stoppage.
Yeah, man, I really love this fight, and I'm a big Jacoby fan. Him being 0-2 in the UFC is a little deceptive because it doesn't show his skills at the moment. That was quite some time ago when he was early on in the UFC and then had a great performance on the Contender Series. Ledet is 3-3 in the UFC. I actually didn't realize Ledet had that many fights in the UFC. It kind of struck me by surprise. But, I will say that Jacoby should eat up the lead leg of Ledet here. And the reason being is Ledet is a boxing base for the most part. And you always hear me talk about this, guys. Whenever a guy is predominantly a boxer, their stance is slightly different. They are heavier on their front leg. So that means they're more susceptible to get leg kicked. Now, Dustin Jacoby, with all the Glory kickboxing experience, great straight punches, great jabs, great low kicks, chew up that leg, make Ledet extremely uncomfortable, and work your way towards a finish. I think that is the logical outcome here. I really think Jacoby goes out there and just gives it to him. I really do. I think Ledet's going to be kind of over his head in this situation. The one thing I will be worried about is if, say, Jacoby hurts him and puts Ledet on his backside, and Ledet is dangerous off his back and has some submission ability. So be very careful. Don't think that Ledet is a scrub on the ground because he does have some submissions. And, 7,300, definitely a GPP play. In my opinion, Jacoby wins this fight 8 out of 10 times, but I will be sprinkling in Ledet just because.
And one of the mentions in the chat was about that, what we thought about the prop bet of Ledet by submission plus 2,200, man. That's good odds.
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't mind doing that. I mean, Ledet wants to get a KO. I mean, he really does. But if a submission presents itself, he's not going to stray away from it, and he knows what to do. So, definite GPP fight. This is kind of this is a nice matchup to target, and I think I'll be getting plenty of exposure to it.
Then we got a female matchup, Courtney Casey taking on Priscilla Cachawara. Courtney Casey, a minus 250 betting favor in this one. She's 8,700 on DK, $18 on FanDuel. I can't take Cachawara. No, I can't do it. This is take Courtney Casey or pass for me.
I would agree. And Courtney Casey, 9-8 overall, 5-7 in the UFC. So, man, it's crazy that somebody can be 5-7 and still in the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
But it goes to show you that she has really fought some tough competition, and the UFC has viewed her as, a tough opponent for anybody in that division. Cachawara was 0-3 until her previous victory over Shauna Dobson with a crazy uppercut, and she looked extremely aggressive and got a finish, and that is usually hard to come by. Overall in her career, she's 9-3, only has a 56% finish rate. Casey is 78% finish rate. So I do think Casey's the better fighter here, has more ways to win. Definitely shouldn't lose this fight. I mean, talk about Cachawara turning her career around if she really gets a win over Courtney Casey here. But I think it's going to be tough sledding. I don't want to pay $18 for Courtney Casey. I don't want to pay $8,700 for Courtney Casey. If you guys want to do it and you feel like this is a nice little leverage spot, because I will be avoiding the fight for the most part, I don't blame you. Crazier things have happened. Perhaps Courtney Casey is a little irritated and works towards a finish here. Does have a 78% finish rate at 8,700. That is interesting. But I will be limiting exposure to this fight and probably not watching it either.
And the first fight of the night, we got Miles Johns as a minus 160 favorite, 8,400 on DK. This is a guy that was, I mean, huge prospect. Obviously, coming off that, had that loss. But he's a guy that he's someone I got circled, and God damn, he's in the first fight of the night.
Yeah, that's okay. I think, every now and then it's okay to break a rule, Jason, because,
unfortunately, I feel like every time I break my rule, I'm on the wrong side of it.
Well, anytime you break your rule, you should pick both sides. I really like Johns here at 8,400. I do. I think that the guy has KO power, and I think that he has crazy wrestling. And even though Natividad is very, very good, very talented, and will be a popular play at 7,800 because Natividad is very, very skilled. Good striking, good grappling, good wrestling. I just think that Miles Johns has the explosive edge and perhaps the wrestling edge where I don't think Natividad has really faced that kind of grappler before, wrestler, I should say. It's like a 60-40 for me because I do think that this is a sneaky fight to target. Oddly enough, man, Johns comes in at 10-1, Jason, 40% finish rate. That is terrible. Like, that is bad. It's a reflection of the division. It's 135 pounds, usually tons of scrambles, not too much, not too many finishes, but Miles Johns definitely has some potential. So I'll be targeting him at 8,400. I expected his price to be a lot higher than that. It's a close fight. Natividad can definitely do something and pull this off. But I'll be slightly favoring Johns.
Of course, line up those questions right now there in the chat. We will get to them before we get out of here. Of course, coming up next is a PJ show, but let's get our straight up picks in terms of this one. Main event, I guess we're both Uriah Hall.
Uriah Hall for me.
Say, I'm with you. Feely and Mitchell, give me Andre Feely.
It's a close fight. I'm going to say Feely, though. Yeah. I'm going to say Feely.
Kevin Holland against Muradov.
Muradov.
Man, we're spot on here together here, man. This is
you're Muradov too?
Yeah, I'm going to get Muradov. I think Kevin Casey gets hit too much. That's my concern with him.
Kevin Holland, yeah.
Or Kevin Holland, excuse me. Maurice Green, Greg Hardy.
Hardy. You taking Crochet Boss?
Nah, give me Greg Hardy.
Okay.
I want to take Maurice Green, but I think Greg Hardy's the way to go. Bobby Green, Tiago Moses, give me Bobby Green.
Same.
Give me Alex Hernandez against Chris Grootsmocker.
Hard to trust him, but I still think Hernandez, yes.
Give me Adrian Yonez against Victor Rodriguez.
Yonez, and I also want to say, pay attention to this salary. $16 on FanDuel. We'll talk about a steal.
Yeah, it's probably going to be very chalky on FanDuel.
Yeah.
Sean Strickland, Jack Marshman.
Strickland.
Yeah, I'm the same. Jason Witt, Cole Williams.
Witt.
Yeah, I'm Witt as well. Jacoby Ledet, I'm Jacoby.
Same. I like Jacoby a lot. I was really happy that he got his opportunity.
As you just heard us break down Casey and Cachawara, you know where I'm going, Courtney Casey.
Casey, yeah.
And then give me Miles John.
I will say Miles Johns, but let me tell you, that is probably one of the closest fights on the card. I think that and Mitchell Feely are so close.
Yeah, so right now we'll get into some listener questions here. So if you want to fire those up in the chat, we'll be here for about 5 more minutes before we'll lead in to let the PGA guys get on here so they can get you ready for the PGA this week. Just kind of scroll down some of these questions I know we've already got to. Joe had asked about our lock of the night.
Yonez for me, and I don't say lock. So if I would say anything close to a lock, it would be Yonez.
Yeah, that'd probably be the one I go with too.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
For a debuting fighter, it's crazy for us to say that's the most confident pick.
No, it should be a good spot and probably going to be a very good spot on FanDuel. And I expect that there's going to be a ton of people all over him on FanDuel. So that's something.
Yeah.
By the way, should be mentioning free premium content over at Awesemo.com right now, MMA rankings. So check that out over at Awesemo.com. Also, we got the promo code PUMPKIN going on through Halloween. Get an Awesemo Plus Platinum Weekly Pass for only $10.31. Samuel, upset of the night.
Upset of the night. I will say Andre Feely.
Crochet boss.
Yeah, I didn't mind.
Look, I got to find someone with high odds. Come on, you're trying to get a plus 130 betting fan? No, come on, man.
I think it's a favorite type of card, truthfully.
I do too. Let's see here. What other questions we got here? What fights would you guys target for DraftKings cash?
I would target the 5-rounder for DraftKings cash just because of possible elevated score, even though it's a slower paced fight. But that's usually going to work out in your favor. I would also obviously include Holland and Murdoch. Having either one of that, either side in that is going to help you out and create a balanced lineup for you, and also be very pivotal to having, a good score.
All right, Samuel coming in with his usual questions of the night. Top favorite, top underdog, upset. We already mentioned the upset. Top favorite and top underdog.
Well, I'll say Yonez again, but I guess that's cheating. I will say Bobby Green. I don't see how Tiago Moises beats him, truthfully.
I like that Bobby Green pick. In terms of underdog, there's not a lot of huge underdogs I love. I mean, Green's, I think it's got great.
I mean, yeah.
Plus 270, I like that number, but I think if for an underdog that I would feel good with, Feely, Muradov,
I mean, Muradov and Feely for me are kind of like two underdogs that I'm targeting.
Yeah. Favorite MVP on FanDuel? And Andy goes, think it has to be Hardy, Hall, or Yonez.
I would say Hardy or Yonez makes a ton of sense. First round KO. I don't really see Hall doing that, but the 5 rounds could always make things tricky, right? But I think Yonez or Hardy makes a ton of sense. Maurice Green has been finished an awful lot.
Could Bobby Green be a sneaky MVP pick?
He could. I mean, but how many times
does he just piece apart Tiago on the feet?
Yeah, but how many times have we said, "Oh, he's due for a finish. He's due for a finish. Put him in there, first round K." He's kind of is what he is. I love him. He's going to win the fight. I just don't know if he's going to get a finish.
All right, here's a question I'll throw out to you.
Okay.
Who is the high salary fighters on DraftKings that scare you the most?
It would have to be tied between Strickland and Hernandez. Strickland only because he has been away from the cage for a little bit. I need to see how he looks. And Hernandez, because of post-Cowboy fight, hasn't really looked the same. But I kind of think this is a perfect matchup for him to showcase his skills, if he goes the grappling route.
And that's going to do it for this edition of the MMA Strategy Show. Of course, we'll be back here on Saturday for the Live Before Lock. By the way, card starts at 4 p.m. Eastern time, so we'll be on 3 p.m. each time. So look for that MMA Live Before Lock right here on Awesemo.com. Of course, coming up next is the PGA Show, so keep it locked here at Awesemo.com. And myself and Pete will be back on Saturday for Live Before Lock.